Here we are again. Thank you for joining me. This Dave's modelling projects. This kit in front of us is the C46D Commando twin engine cargo aircraft. I picked this up at a model show, I think it was November or December last year, 2025, at the Coventry model show. It caught my eye and I thought what a lovely little project that I could do for my grandson. So let's have a look and see what's inside, shall we? Right, so in the box what we have is a small booklet. I say small booklet, it's an A4 size, but it's just a couple of pages of building instructions with some stencil call outs on this one. We have two sides of colour call out, so we've got this scheme and we have this scheme. This scheme is the South Korea and this is the training command for the USA, dated, I don't know, 1954. I don't know too much about this particular aircraft. I just like the look of the kit and I thought I'll give it a go. So we have a small little sprue, a little bit's broken off there. Details not too bad on there actually. So I think this should build into quite a nice little model, and then don't want to lose that. And then what we have is the wings. Again, the detail, and there's not a lot of flash on there. Yeah, it looks good. And then we have a small piece of the canopy. It's not much on there, just a little bit there. Very small piece of photo etch, and included is a masking set for the screen. So that's all good, and not forgetting the small amount of decal. All looks good. Let's crack on with the build. This being a small kit, I think what I'll do first, I will make sure that all the parts fit, or most of them. So I'm going to do like a bit of a semi build without any glue to make sure everything's okay. The first thing I'm going to do is get most of the parts off the sprue. Get that done first and come back in a sec. Took off most of the parts off the sprue. I've left a few bits on because I don't really want to lose them, and they're not necessary at this moment in the stage of the build. But I've had a thorough good look over these parts. I've cut all of the sprue tags off. I'll tidy them up as I go, but I can tell you now there's not one bit of flash anywhere on these wings and on the main fuselage. You know, I've just got, the only tidying I've got to do is where I've cut it with my nippers to get rid of the sprue lugs. And then again, the only little bit of misdemeanor on here, and I don't really call it that, is the where the wheels tires are. You can see there's a little bit on there. So that is it. So that's the only bit of stress that you've got so far with cleaning all these parts up. What I've done is that is it. It's not the entire part list. Like I say, there's a few bits on the sprues, just these little bits. I'm not going to take them off now. I don't really want to lose them. I'll leave them to one side for now. And what we'll do is we'll stick it together with some masking tape and make sure everything fits okay. And I'll come back with that just to show if it has or hasn't. And then we can move on to the next stage. Okay, I've stuck it together with some masking tape so I can see what it's going to look like as we progress through the build. No major issues. Got the cockpit inside, as you can see. Not a lot of detail. I'll just paint it up, do a basic paint job on that. Once the canopy's on, you'll not see it. Put the two nacelles on with the engines in. Hopefully you can see with the camera in focus, hopefully. The engines got quite good detail. They should look good. And obviously the little props, once we've got them on, they'll look good. But there's no fit issues, not that I can see. Ignore any of the gaps because it's not glued together. It's just masking tape on. But that, I'm really pleased that there's no, for the moment, it doesn't show me any fit issues. I'm not bothered about the seams with the wings, because there is such a nice fit. They almost going to disappear when it comes together anyway. So I think there's going to be very little fillering going in on this kit, and I think it's going to look very smart when it's done. Let's move on. Right, so just checking through the instructions, I noticed I needed to make some holes from the inside of the two fuselage halves. So on the actual instructions here, it tells you A, B, C, D, E, F, G and so on, and it gives you a nice little diagram looking head on as to where the actual positions are. So what I've done, I've marked them, I've checked them out and marked them, so I know exactly where I've got to put these holes. So there's a hole that goes on the inner edge, and then there's one that's on the inside of the fuselage, so it's at this point where I'm pointing, and then there's another one here, and then there's an outer edge, and then there's I believe it's this one here, and then this one here. I've got it A, B, C, D, E, F, and then I've done the same with this one where A is obviously A, the opposite side, and then D, H, and F, and I, just the odd one on there. So I'm going to drill those out first before I paint and sort out the cockpit area. So I'll get those done first. Right, I've drilled the holes out according to the instructions. It does kind of say in the instructions 0.6 or 0.8 millimeter diameter. I'm not entirely sure what size this is, but I thought if I do it all the same, if I have any issues, at least I know where the holes are. I can always come from the outside at a later date. So I've got those holes done according to the plan. So as far as I'm concerned, that's all I need to do with these right now. So after doing these, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a short amount of details in. I'm going to paint the cockpit area black according to the instructions. I'll then sort out this little cockpit details as well. I'll get these bits done so I can show you what they are. And like I say, I'm building this for my grandson, and you're not going to see much inside, and he ain't going to be that interested anyway. But I thought I'd put a little bit of detail on there for my convenience, and then I can enclose all that in, and then we can start putting the rest of the stuff on and start doing the paint on there. I'll come back when those bits are done. A quick glance of what I've done before I enclose the cockpit in place. Just a little bit of paint on there. I used Vallejo black and Tamiya XF4 yellow green for this. Just a basic paint, nothing more. And then, like I say, I just basic black inside both sides of the fuselage. I've managed to put the cockpit set up inside, close the fuselage up together, and then I added the windshields, windscreens, cockpit canopy, whatever you want to call them. It's loose in there, it's not glued. I've not glued this yet, I'm going to do that in just a minute. But I think what I'll do is I'll put the masking on after I've set it in place. It's a bit loose, so I think what I'll do is I'll glue all this. We'll get this done. I'll have a look at putting the canopy mask set on first before I set this in place, because I may want to use a bit of filler as well. So we'll do that now. Here we have the masking set. I'm going to put that on now, so you can't really see much even with the light, but it is there. The instructions, which it's not too bad, so it shows you the layout and where to put them. This is what I'm going to do now. So here we go. Moving on to the wings, what I'm going to do here, first of all, we'll take off all this masking. We're going to glue these together, and then once we've done that, we can fit those to the fuselage at this stage of the build. We'll get rid of these. Like I say, the test fit was quite good. There was no issues with these wings. Do all this, and I'll come back when it's done. So, got the wings on, got the tailplanes on. I am very pleased to see that once they're glued and set in place, there's very little seam line on the bottom, and if any on the top, so I'm quite pleased with that. The next stage is to do the two little motors, put a little paint detail on there. That'll pop through the nacelles in a bit. So I'll complete the nacelles. They're in 3 pieces. I'm just going to get them all together, and once the motors are in place, these will just slide over the top. I'll put them on, protect the motors so that I can prep the aircraft for its final paint job. Okay, so I've painted the 2 little radial engines with some gloss primer in preparation for taking some steel paint. This is the primer that I've used, and I would say I don't use it in my airbrushes. It clogs up. The amount of times it's frustrated me having to clean the damn things out. So this is consigned to paintbrush jobs only. I don't know if anyone else has had any issues with it, but I just can't get on with it in my airbrushes. So yeah, consigned to the airbrush. Put a couple of drops on a milk bottle top, paintbrushed. They seem to be okay, so what I'll do is I might give them a little bit more just to darken them off, and then once I've done that, I'm going to be working on these, completing these fully, ready to go on to the aircraft. So I'll come back in a short while. Okay, so I'm going to look at test fitting these nacelles, and I've noticed, let me just show you, that they don't, you see how that one's falling off there, but you can see they're not very flush at the join here. I think what I'm going to need to do is work a little bit of magic with some sandpaper to try and get that a little bit flush, to make it look half decent. So let's have a quick look at that. Okay, so just to show you, I've painted one of the radial engines with the steel paint, and I've just put the other engine alongside it with the gloss primer, just so you know that it will look different when you see it. It will have some effect, I suppose. We'll crack on. I'll paint that other one, let it dry, and then we'll put them on. I've now added the radio engines, the nacelles in place. You can see the painted radials, and you can also see a little bit of silver paint. I've done that because what I'm going to do in a minute when it's dry, fully dry, is I will fill that up with some masking fluid, so I don't have to use tape or anything, and then I can just peel it out when it's done. So there's a little bit of paint on the outer edges there, just so that it kind of blends in. The next stage here is I may well put all the antennas on so I don't mess about and ruin the effect as I go. So I'll put all those on. We will then come back with the black primer on in preparation for the silver paint. So the silver paint, I'm trying to work a little bit of magic on it because I want it to at least look like, have some effect. So we've got some different tonal effects on the body, and I'm pretty sure there'll be that on the wings as well. This is what I want it to look like, not with these decals on. So that's the next stage. Get the primer on. We'll check over the primer to make sure there's no flaws or defects, and then we can get the silver paint on. So here we are with absolutely everything now that I need for this aircraft. What I've done is I've added all the antenna, top and bottom. I'm hoping it's not a mistake, so that I don't damage any of it when I'm adding the primer. And I've got all the other peripherals, the undercarriage doors, propellers, wheels, and all that lot will be sprayed in a primer, ready for the silver paint. So what I'll do is I'll come back when I've done that, so we can decide how I'm going to add all the other bits to it, paint-wise. Okay, so I've sprayed the whole model with some primer, and what I've used is Mr. Surfacer 1500 black. I thinned it down 50-50. So what I've done is I've had a good look over and discovered that there were some seams showing through. So I thought I'd show this just briefly before I carry on and put the final bit of black on. I've done this area here, and you can see just along here where the seams have been tidied up. So what I did with the seams is I used, again, I used Mr. Surfacer 1500. I don't want to touch it with my hands. And just gently filled in along the seams, allowed it to dry, and then sanded it down. So the next thing I'm going to do is sort them out with my airbrush and finish that off. But what I did use is this flexible 1000 grit, and I cut it into a very thin strip, and then I used the same flexible stuff, but instead of 1000 it was 2500 grit. Again, this is flexible, and I did it dry, not wet. The technique I use when I am doing that is, I'll just shift this so you can see it. You'll see on the bottom corner here, this material I use is a lint-free cloth. Got a big roll of it. And the beauty of it is that you can actually wash it, and then when you've finished with it, you can iron it and bring it back to use again. And what I do is, once I've sanded my little jobs here, rather than waste it, I just brush it on the side, take off the paint, and you can see there, and it's back to normal. And it's the same with this 1000. I'll do that, it just grabs off the paint, and I can just reuse that one on that, and then later on, if these wear out, I can use these on other projects until they've really gone bad. But that's the technique I use, and then I just brush it off with a perfume brush. See a bit of dust there. So I want to get this dust off now, and then just beside me while I'm spraying this, because this Mr. Surfacer stuff is pretty nasty for the lungs, is I do actually have an extractor fan that takes that away. So I'll come back when I'm done. So here we are with the airframe completely painted black. I used a Mr. Surfacer primer of 1500, allowed it to dry. I didn't have any gloss black primer, so I just did it with Mr. Surfacer. And then I painted the entire airframe with a gloss varnish. This is what I used. Pretty good for the process that I'm going to use now. As I didn't have any gloss primer, this stuff is a good substitute. Allowed that to dry. A few imperfections, I've rubbed them off. You probably can't see, but there's a couple here, along the wings on the nacelle. Done those now with some 2500 grit. I wouldn't use anything lower. I'd always go higher with the grit size if I'm doing this, but I'm not going to go back over with the gloss varnish. I don't think there's any need for me to do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spray the entire airframe with Vallejo metal colour silver, and this is a nice product. I've not been disappointed with this paint. It's quite a nice paint. So here I am at the moment with the silver paint on all over. I've let that dry a bit. A little bit of polishing off to do to make the surfaces a little bit better than they are. Next stage to do is some tonal differences with some different metals, just to give it that bit more effect. Then I'm going to work on the red paint. Once I've done that, I can then look at doing the decals. But I've deliberately missed this little piece off here because I'm going to put it on, but I'm going to do that on its own, paint it up on its own, and then I'm going to glue it separately. I had all manner of issues when I put the antennas on. I knew I would. I did mention it earlier. They kept breaking off. So I've put them on now, but the airframe itself now is ready for some additional work. I'll come back when we're looking like this with the actual paints before I do the decals. So I'll see you in a short while. Quick look at what I've done before I put any tonal effects on. So I've just put a bit of masking tape over. These will be the main bits, but I will do a bit of airbrushing technique on some other areas as I go. That's just, it's just a quick bash of some masking ready for the tonal effects. So hopefully they'll look good in a minute. Okay, so what I've used is some extreme metal duraluminum, and I've used titanium as well, sprayed over it. So I'm just going to start peeling these off and see what effect I've got. Okay, so let's have a quick look. Take it off nice and steady. It's just to give it sort of different tonal effects, nothing fancy, just because I don't particularly want to add or put anything on the there you go again. Quite annoying, I keep breaking these. I don't particularly want to put any panel lining on. There's no real need, not for what I want from this. I'll come back when I've done that. So I've removed all the masking tape now, so we can have a look at what effect I've hopefully created to get some sort of different metal tonal effects. A bit annoyed here, pulling off the masking tape, it seemed to peel away. My error, but I'll correct that later when I'll airbrush that over. But if you look, hopefully, if I can get it in the light, you can see there is a slight, not perfect, but it just gives it that effect of, some panels have faded and died out in their shine and stuff like that. So I've used extreme metal, aka titanium, and this one duraluminum, and I've used those with the airbrush all over at low pressure, and you can see, hopefully you can see all the tones on there. So the next thing for me to do, without messing around with my hands too much, is I think we'll let that dry overnight because it's slightly tacky. I mean, you can pick it up, but start handling it too much and it'll start messing about with all the paint effects. So I'll come back when I've got the red patches over and start looking at putting the paint down, some edges and that, get that final bit, and then we're looking at the decals, and I think this will look quite nice once it's done. A little bit of masking going on here, pre-masking, because I've got two different colours to do. I've got to do the red here on either side, and also around here, and I have masked up some stuff with some black, but I'm going to do the black in a bit. I'm going to do the red first. I'll get that red done, then once I've done that I'll get the black done. Here we are with the red paint on now. I used AK Red Emblem
It's for figures, but it's good enough for this. Unfortunately, I didn't have any Tamiya or Mr. Colour in my stock, so I resorted to using this paint. Here we are with it, top and bottom. So now what I'm going to do is see what it looks like with the masking tape off. Okay, well, I've taken the masking off for the red paint and masked up the remaining bits I need for the black. This is the next bit I'm going to do. I'm not going to do it on camera. I'll just get this out of the way, and then I can peel it all off, and then you can see what the effect looks like once it's done. Let's crack on with the painting. Okay, here we are without the masking on now. It looks okay. I'm not 100% happy with it, but I'm not going to dwell on that. A few issues that come with it. A little bit of ingress there with the spray. That will be down to me with not putting the masking on properly. I don't understand why that has come off. I know why that's come off, so I'll tidy that up. So what I will do, I'll sort those little bits out, put the antennas on that are broken off, which I knew I would break them off as I was manhandling it all the time. Just give you a quick show. What we've got is, put the black lines on, put the black underneath, got the black around here. This is for this particular build, so got that on there. Put the black edges on the tail ends here. Believe me, it's a small model kit. It's quite fiddly, to be honest with you, but I think it's come out quite well so far. So what we've got to do now is, like I said, we'll varnish it, but I think what I'll do is I will put the undercarriage on, so that I've got something for it to stand on while I'm doing the decals as well, so I don't break any of the antennas underneath. Now done all the little bits I need touching up, and I've given it a coat of varnish. I think you can perhaps see the glare on it from the light. Put the undercarriage on, as you can see. So now what we're going to do is leave that to dry overnight, let that harden off a bit, and then it's onto the decals. And I've also a little bit of detail to the props, as you can see. There we go. There's a little bit of decals to go on those as well. So right, next stage now, the gloss varnish is dried, allowed it to dry overnight, is to set the decals. So this is a colour scheme I'm going to use, and here's the lovely decal sheet that I'm going to cut them from. And here is the little beast that they're going on. Let's come out a little bit. Whoops, let's come out. There we go. Now that's nice and dry. That's all ready for applying the decals. We'll crack on with that, and hopefully we'll have something looking nice at the end of this. So here we go. Okay, so I've cut all the decal bits I need for this kit. There's quite a few. What I'll do is I'll do some of these. I'll just keep my mouth shut. I'll not show all of them. I'll just do a few, and maybe just keep filming going and see how we go. So here we go. Right, so what we have here is the little bit of photo etch, which I said I was going to do earlier. I've got some 800 grit and I've got some double-sided tape. So I'm going to stick this to the double-sided tape, give it a sand with this so I can give it a key for the super glue. So that's what we're going to do next. Right, so I'm going to peel this half off first and I'm going to put that on there. Not too much, otherwise it could cause me a problem. Push it down firmly. I'm just going to give it a rub on all of it. Not worried about the double-sided tape, just as long as it does the job that I want it to do. So take that off. Let's just prise underneath. Here we go. Right. Like I say, that's fine. That's why I didn't want it to be on there fully. So you get rid of that. Now I've done that, I just want the one side done. And what we'll do is we'll cut this little piece off and we'll get it on there. Right, I've got the bit of photo etch stuck to this double-sided tape. What I've got to do now is the little bit here, if you can see it, there's a little bit of a bubble on there. So what I want to do, so what I've done is I put it on these little sort of vice clamps that I've got. There's a little plastic thing here that pushes it nice and tight. So I've got it here in place. What I want to do is I don't know if you can see it, but there is a little piece sticking out there. So I've got to I need to sort of sand that off. I can show you, a little bit closer. You can just about make it out. So I'm going to get rid of that now. And then what I will do, if I can, I'm going to hopefully glue it onto that piece there. So let me just rub this off very gently. Also, what it helps, it gives me a bit of a key for the, let me just check. Yep, that's gone. So the next thing to do is to see if I can get it on there securely. Right, so what I've got to achieve is something that looks like that. So I've got to make sure that I get this bit right so I can put it in this location. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and glue it together with this flexible Sino super glue. So let's see how we go from there. I'll try and see if I can do it with the camera on. This might be a bit of a sticky job, but so I'm going to do is get it on my. Here we go. Got to be careful it doesn't flick all over the place, which, like I say, there we go. Get him on there. I'll put a little blob of glue on there. I do hope it works. Get myself into a position where I can do it. Let's have a look. Okay, let's see if that works. What I've managed to do is I've managed to cut this last little tab off here, and it's just gently tucked or gently stuck to that double-sided tape. So I've just got to try and work it loose a little bit. I don't think it's stuck too much. There we go. You can see it's wiggling about. So what I'll do is I'm going to try, let's see if I can get the blade under there just to lift it up a bit. Yeah, I don't think it's, oh, here we go. So let's take that off. There you go. And so now, if you can see that, oh, I don't know if it's in focus, but that is on there. Yep. So I'm going to put it down on there. The camera's not sort of focusing in on it that well at the moment, but I'll put it on my finger so you can see how small it is. So there we are. It gives you some idea of how small this item is. I thought I'd show how I can put it together. These small items on photo etches, they can be quite difficult. Doing etching is fine, building stuff up, but when it gets to this size, sometimes they're near on impossible and you end up just not bothering. But I thought, well, we'll crack on and have a go. I am fairly successful with photo etch items. You just got to be patient, just take your time. So there you go. That will be painted up in a minute and I will put that on at a later date. So then the next time you see this is when the aircraft is actually finished. So I'm done with this model, and the final bit I have to do now is just remove these masking, and this final result will show whether this masking was any good or not. Let's have a look and see if my work around this has paid off. Just got to be careful not to scratch the screens or remove too much paint. Just put them there. Sometimes I think it's always satisfying to take masking off, provided you don't damage anything in the process. Now that looks like going to look the business. Obviously a model this size, it's not going to be perfect unless you spent hours and hours and hours being fussy. I can be fussy if I want to be, but this is coming off quite well. 2 more to do. It can be nerve-wracking if you've spent a long time on a massive model with a lot of detail. Nothing worse than the screen looking awful. Okay, so that looks good. All right. Okay, so here we are. It's finished. Very pleased with the outcome. In my eye, it looks nice. It looks the part. Colour scheme is exactly how I expected it to come out, as you can see here. Beautiful from start to finish. No complaints from any of the parts. It was pretty much flash free from get-go. I like the colour scheme that I've done. The other colour schemes perhaps a little bit boring, so this has kind of picked it up a little bit. Plenty of decals, plenty of stencils, enough for this. You perhaps can't see them, but there's stencils around here. There's a little bit on there. There's some around here, some underneath, just enough to sort of give it that little extra. Some on there. I'll show you this because if you like the kit and you decide you want one, there's a lot to go on with this little machine. And if that is in a model cabinet or hanging from the ceiling, that's going to look the business as far as I'm concerned. And apologies for my voice because I have had a cold from start to finish. I can't seem to shake it, so apologies there. If you're a 1/144 scale modeler, this is a beautiful kit, a beautiful plane. I couldn't recommend it enough. I thoroughly enjoyed making this kit. I think it's really nice. Quite surprised. I've never done a Wolfpack kit before. So what I'll do is I'll leave you with some finished pictures so you can have a good look around it. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you've watched through the video from start to finish. If you haven't, if you've picked through it, then great, because there are some little tips and hints that I put in there to help you if you decide that you want to do this kit. And I deliberately made sure that I showed quite a bit of the building rather than just a 25-minute bish bash bong, job's done. Yeah, if you liked it, if it's something that you think, oh, I'll have a go in the future, you can draw on this video and hopefully it will help give you some tips and ideas of how to finish it. So for now, for me, thank you for watching and happy modeling, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.